Commander Susan Hill stood at the viewing port of the United Earth Navy vessel Defiance. The stars looked different from this far out in space, colder somehow. She straightened her uniform and took a deep breath. Today humans would meet aliens. For the first time. "Commander, the Varax ship is approaching," said Lieutenant Eric Johnson from his communications station. "They're signaling readiness for our diplomatic party." Susan nodded. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Inform Major Carter and Dr. Martinez to meet me in the shuttle bay." The mission briefing had been clear. The Varax Imperium controlled dozens of star systems. They were warriors with advanced technology, but intelligence suggested they respected strength and proper protocol. That's why the diplomatic team included both scientists and military personnel. Susan met her team at the shuttle. Major William Carter looked imposing in his formal military uniform with combat medals across his chest. His expression was serious as he checked his ceremonial sidearm. "Just for show," he said, catching Susan's glance. "As ordered." Dr. Olivia Martinez joined them, carrying her scientific equipment. Her eyes sparkled with excitement. "Can you believe it, Commander? First contact. Everything I've worked for my entire career." Communications specialist Eric Johnson hurried in last, carrying translation equipment. He was the youngest of the group, only 28, but his gift for languages had made him essential to the mission. Susan addressed her team. "Remember, we represent all of humanity today. Our goal is peaceful contact and mutual respect. The Varax are proud, so we show strength without aggression." The shuttle trip to the massive Varax flagship took 12 minutes. Susan used that time to study the alien vessel. It resembled a giant horseshoe crab with spines extending from its hull. The entire structure glowed with a faint blue light. Biosynthetic components in their ship design, Dr. Martinez noted. Fascinating. Their shuttle was guided into a docking bay larger than the Defiance's main hangar. Armed guards waited in formation. Susan led her team out, back straight, head high. The Varax were taller than humans by at least 2 feet. Their bodies were covered in a hard shell that looked like armor but was actually part of their bodies. They had 4 arms and walked on 2 legs. Most striking was their translucent carapace, through which pulsed a glowing blue-green fluid. High Commander Kresither stepped forward. The translation device identified him by the elaborate markings on his shell. He performed what appeared to be a military salute with his upper arms while his lower arms remained near his weapons. "Welcome to the flagship of the glorious Varax Imperium," the translation came through Johnson's device. "You stand before the advanced force of the greatest civilization in known space." Susan performed the practiced greeting. "On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we extend peaceful greetings and the hope for mutual understanding between our peoples." The meeting continued in what seemed like a formal exchange of diplomatic pleasantries. The Varax escorted them to a large chamber with a view of space. Susan noted how the alien crew watched them with what she interpreted as curiosity. Dr. Martinez whispered observations about their physiology. "Their circulatory system is bioluminescent. Look how it pulses when they communicate." After an hour of formal exchanges, High Commander Kresither's tone changed. "Now we will discuss the terms of your world's integration into the Imperium," he announced. Susan kept her expression neutral. "I believe there's a misunderstanding. We've come to establish diplomatic relations between equals." The Varax commander made a clicking sound that the translator didn't catch. "There are no equals to the Varax. Your world has resources we require. You will be classified as a protected resource world. Your people will be allowed to live under our guidance." "Earth is a sovereign planet," Susan replied firmly. "We seek friendship, not subjugation." The commander's internal fluids pulsed brighter. "You misunderstand. This is not a negotiation. These are the terms of your surrender." Major Carter stepped forward. "Commander Hill speaks with the full authority of Earth. We do not surrender." The 4 Varax guards raised their weapons. Susan stood her ground. "Lower your weapons. This is a diplomatic mission." High Commander Kresither moved with unexpected speed. He grabbed Eric Johnson by the throat with one of his lower arms. "Perhaps you need to understand your position," he said. What happened next occurred in seconds. The Varax commander's upper right arm produced a blade-like extension. Before anyone could react, he drove it through Johnson's chest. The young communications specialist gasped once, his eyes wide with shock. "No!" Dr. Martinez screamed. Major Carter reached for his sidearm, but two guards fired. Energy beams struck him in the shoulder and leg. He fell but managed to press an emergency button on his wrist communicator before the guards took it. Susan lunged toward Johnson, but Kresither held his body as blue human blood dripped to the floor. "Your kind bleeds such a dull color," the commander observed. "Not beautiful like ours." Susan controlled her rage with effort. "You've just declared war on humanity." The Varax commander dropped Johnson's body carelessly. "War implies two military powers. This is simply acquisition." Dr. Martinez knelt beside Carter, trying to stop his bleeding with pieces of her own jacket. "Take the survivors to containment," Kresither ordered. "Study their biology. We'll need to know how best to process their world." As guards dragged them away, Susan locked eyes with the Varax commander. "You made a mistake today. You think you know what humans are. You don't." The commander's inner fluids pulsed in what might have been amusement. "Your species is not the first to offer defiance before acceptance." "We're not like the others," Susan said as they pulled her toward the door. "You killed one of us. You'll learn what that means." In the holding cell, Dr. Martinez worked to stabilize Major Carter with the limited supplies the Varax had allowed her. "His wounds aren't fatal if I can stop the bleeding," she whispered. Susan helped as best she could. "Did the emergency beacon activate?" Carter nodded weakly. 3 pulses. "Captain West will receive it on the Phantom. He's stubborn, won't wait for orders." "Good," Susan said. "Because we need to teach the Varax something important about humans." "What's that?" Dr. Martinez asked, her hands covered in Carter's blood. Susan's eyes were cold as she looked toward the cell door where Varax guards stood, watching that we don't surrender and we don't forget. On the distant stealth frigate Phantom, Captain Samuel West received the emergency signal. 3 pulses, officer down. "Hostages taken?" "Navigator," he ordered. "Plot intercept course with the Varax flagship. Engage stealth systems." "Sir," his second-in-command objected. "Orders are to wait for reinforcements if contact goes bad." Captain West's jaw tightened. "They've taken our people. We're not waiting." He activated the ship's intercom. "Tactical Officer Brown and Lieutenant Murphy report to the bridge. Prepare boarding team." The Phantom turned silently toward the massive Varax ship, invisible to their sensors. The humans were coming, and they were bringing something the Varax had never faced before: human vengeance. Captain Samuel West studied the holographic display of the Varax flagship. The massive alien vessel dwarfed his stealth frigate Phantom, but size wasn't everything in space combat. Sometimes being small and quiet was better. "Tactical assessment." "Officer Brown," he ordered. Lisa Brown, the ship's tactical officer, stepped forward. Her dark eyes narrowed as she analyzed the display. "Their outer defenses are designed to stop large attacks, Captain. They don't expect a small insertion team. The shuttle bay here," she pointed to a section of the ship, "has minimal guards based. On our scans, they're overconfident." Engineer Jack Nelson spoke up from his station. "The experimental cloaking tech is holding steady, sir. They have no idea we're sitting right next to them." Captain West nodded. "Lieutenant Murphy, is your team ready?" Alan Murphy stood at attention. The Navy Special Warfare operator was built like a brick wall. "Yes, sir." 6 operators, fully equipped for stealth insertion and hostage recovery. "Remember," West said, "primary objective is recovering our people. Secondary objective is gathering intelligence on Varax capabilities." He paused. "And if Lieutenant Johnson is dead, we bring his body home." Murphy's face hardened. "Understood." "Sir," the boarding team gathered in the launch bay. They wore matte black armor with full-face helmets. Each carried specialized weapons designed for shipboarding, sound-suppressed firearms. close-quarter combat blades, and non-lethal options. "Comes check," Murphy said as his team prepared the stealth shuttle. "Rivera, ready." The demolitions expert checked her explosives. "Garcia, ready." The team medic secured his medical kit. "Miller, ready." The team's electronics specialist calibrated his equipment. "Patel, ready." The team's marksman checked her rifle. "Nguyen, ready." The navigation specialist uploaded the final approach plan. Murphy looked at his team. "We go in quiet, find our people, and get out. If we're spotted, we adapt and overcome. No one gets left behind." The stealth shuttle detached from the Phantom. Captain West watched from the bridge. "Good hunting," he said quietly. The shuttle slipped through a blind spot in the Virac sensors. Using maintenance channels identified in their intelligence reports, they approached the secondary shuttle bay undetected. 30 seconds to insertion, Nguyen reported. The team did final weapons checks. Murphy activated his helmet's advanced vision modes. "For Johnson," he said simply. "For Johnson," the team echoed. The shuttle landed silently in a maintenance area of the bay. Security cameras had been looped by Miller's electronic countermeasures. The team moved out in perfect formation, communicating through hand signals and helmet displays. Their first encounter with Virac's guards came at a junction. Two tall aliens stood discussing something, their inner fluids glowing brightly as they communicated. Murphy signaled Patel. She moved forward silently and struck with precision. Her blade slipped between the plates of the first guard's carapace. The alien made a strange whistling sound as its glowing fluid sprayed from the wound. The second guard turned, reaching for an alarm, but Rivera was already there. Her blade found the gap in its neck armor. The guard collapsed, leaking glowing blue-green fluid across the floor. Something unexpected happened. As the second guard died, the first one that was only wounded began to shake violently. Its inner glow pulsed erratically, and it made a high-pitched sound. "It's having some kind of seizure," Garcia whispered. Murphy studied the reaction. "The fluid ... they're connected somehow." "It felt its friend die." Miller scanned the dying alien. "Bio readings suggest some kind of shared nervous system, like they're networked together." Murphy made a quick decision. New protocol. Make them bleed, but keep one alive at each checkpoint. I want to test this reaction. They moved deeper into the ship, encountering more guards. Each time, they followed the new protocol. Mortally wound one, incapacitate another. Each time, the wounded. Virac exhibited extreme distress when witnessing its companion's death. "They're feeling each other die," Patel observed. "Look how their fluid changes color when it happens." Using the ship's schematics from their intelligence briefing, they located the detention level. Two guards stood outside a cell. Murphy signaled. The team moved with practiced efficiency. This time, they deliberately let one guard witness the other's death more fully. The surviving guard's reaction was even more extreme. It thrashed, its inner fluid pulsing rapidly before turning a dull gray color. "It died from shock," Garcia confirmed after examining it. "No physical wounds caused that." They opened the cell door. Inside, Commander Hill and Dr. Martinez looked up in surprise. Major Carter lay on a bench, his wounds bandaged with torn clothing. "Lieutenant." "Murphy," Hill said, relief in her voice. "Told you he wouldn't wait for orders," she said to Carter. Murphy nodded. "Can the Major walk?" "With help," Martinez said. "They've been studying us, taking samples. They were going to start more invasive procedures tomorrow." Murphy assigned Garcia and Nguyen to help Carter. "Commander, we need to move, but first we need to find Johnson." Hill's expression darkened. They took his body to another level. Sighed. "Something about studying our inferior biology." The team moved through the ship, following Hill's directions. They encountered more Viracs, and each time they exploited the new weakness they'd discovered. The aliens were becoming increasingly disoriented throughout the section. "It's like they share a hive mind," Martinez observed as they moved. "When one experiences extreme trauma, they all feel echoes of it." They found Johnson's body in a laboratory. The Viracs had displayed him like a specimen. Murphy's team fell silent at the sight. "Get him down," Murphy ordered, his voice tight with anger. As they prepared to retreat, Engineer Nelson contacted them from the Phantom. Captain says we need a diversion to cover extraction. Their security is starting to notice something's wrong. Murphy looked at the laboratory equipment, then at the Varax they'd subdued. We've learned something important today, he said. They feel each other's pain and fear. Let's give them something to remember. With Hill's approval, Miller hacked into the ship's internal communication system. They rigged cameras to broadcast throughout the vessel. Then Murphy did something that would change the course of the war before it even officially began. He made the captured Varax bleed, deliberately and methodically, while explaining to it exactly why humans were doing this. He made sure every cut was visible on the broadcast. This is for Johnson, he said. Learn what happens when you kill one of ours. The effect rippled through the ship. Alarms blared, but they sounded erratic, as if the operators were losing control. Varax throughout the vessel felt the fear and pain of their companion. Many collapsed or fled their posts. The team extracted with all 3 survivors and Johnson's body. The shuttle returned to the Phantom as chaos engulfed the Varax flagship, once safely aboard. Captain West met them in the hangar. Did you get what we needed? He asked. Commander Hill nodded grimly. More than we expected, Captain. We found their weakness. Dr. Martinez was already analyzing data from the encounter. Their shared consciousness is both their strength and their vulnerability. When one experiences extreme fear or pain, they all do. Captain West looked at the recovered body of Lieutenant Johnson, now respectfully covered with an Earth flag. So what's the tactical assessment, Commander? Hill's eyes were cold. They made us bleed and thought we would surrender. We made them bleed and their entire ship fell into chaos. Murphy removed his helmet. They feel each other's deaths. They experience fear collectively, and now they know that humans don't. We've just discovered the most important tactical advantage in this war, Hill said. If they bleed, they fear, and that fear spreads like a virus among them. The Phantom accelerated away from the Varax flagship, its stealth systems still active. Behind them, the massive alien vessel had stopped pursuit, its movements erratic and disorganized. Set course for Earth, West ordered. We need to report what we've learned. As the stars streaked past, Hill looked at Johnson's covered body. They wanted to know what humans are, she said quietly. They're about to find out? Admiral Diane Foster studied the reports on her desk. 3 months had passed since the rescue mission. Now she sat in a secure conference room deep within Luna Base, Earth's moon-based military headquarters. The stark walls were lined with screens showing data from the Varax encounter. Let's begin, she said, as the door sealed shut. Commander Susan Hill entered first, now fully recovered from her ordeal. Major William Carter followed, walking with a slight limp from his injuries. Captain Samuel West and Dr. Olivia Martinez completed the group. They all wore the formal blue uniforms of the United Earth Navy, except Martinez, who wore a civilian science division outfit. The Varax have gone quiet since the incident, Admiral Foster began. Our long-range scouts report their fleet has pulled back to their territory. But intelligence suggests they're preparing for war, Hill nodded. They won't forgive what happened. Their culture demands a response. Then we need to be ready, Foster said. That's why I've assembled this strategic committee. Dr. Martinez, please share your findings. Martinez stood and activated the main display. Images of Varax physiology appeared, focusing on their glowing circulatory system. The Varax evolved from hive-based creatures, she explained. Their bioluminescent fluid isn't just blood. It's a communication medium. When one Varax experiences strong emotions, especially fear, the chemical markers in this fluid change. Others detect these changes through their translucent carapace. She showed video from Lieutenant Murphy's mission. The reaction of Varax guards witnessing their companions' deaths played in slow motion. In normal situations, this system helps them coordinate as a group. But in combat, it creates a critical weakness. They have no psychological defense against widespread, synchronized terror. Carter, recently promoted to colonel, spoke up. Individual Varax can be brave. But when enough experience fears simultaneously, it cascades through their collective consciousness. Admiral Foster turned to him. "What are you proposing, Colonel?" Carter stood and approached the display. "A new doctrine based on what we've learned. We're calling it the Hemophobia Doctrine." "Hemophobia?" Foster asked. "Fear of blood," Martinez explained. "In their case, fear of bleeding," Carter nodded. "The core principle is simple. If they bleed, they fear, and if they fear collectively, they break. We need to weaponize this knowledge." He outlined a three-part strategy on the screen. First, technology. We develop weapons that cause maximum bleeding while preserving intelligence-gathering capabilities. Not just killing Varax, but making them bleed visibly and painfully. Second, psychology. We ensure Varax witness humans appearing unaffected by our own wounds. Their hive mind makes them vulnerable to fear. Our individual minds make us resistant to collective panic. Third, tactics. We prioritize targets based on their psychic significance to the hive. Higher-ranking Varax appear to have stronger connections. When they experience fear, the effect ripples more widely. The room was silent as the implications sank in. They were discussing psychological warfare on a scale never before attempted. "This approach feels ruthless," Foster said finally. "They executed Johnson without provocation," Hill reminded her. "They plan to dissect us alive. They intend to enslave Earth." Captain West, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "Admiral, the Varax understand only strength. Their entire empire is built on subjugating species they consider weaker. We need to show them humanity isn't weak." Foster studied the data again. "The ethical implications are significant. We'd be deliberately causing terror to prevent genocide," Carter said firmly. "Intelligence estimates the Varax fleet could reach Earth within a year. They've conquered 17 other species." Martinez added, "Those other species fought conventionally and lost. We need to fight unconventionally to survive." Foster stood and walked to the viewport. Earth hung in the blackness, beautiful and vulnerable. "Very well," she said at last. "I'll authorize the formation of a specialized unit to develop and implement this doctrine. Colonel Carter, you'll oversee the strategic aspects." She turned to face the group. "But we maintain our humanity in this. The goal is deterrence, not extermination. We make them fear us enough to leave us alone, not to destroy them completely." Carter nodded. "The new unit will be called Tactical Deterrent Force, TDF. Captain West," Foster continued, "your ship performed exceptionally during the rescue. The Phantom will serve as our test platform for new technologies based on this doctrine." "Yes, Admiral," West said. "Dr. Martinez, you'll lead the scientific team studying Varax psychology and physiology. We need to understand exactly how their fear response works." Martinez nodded eagerly. "I've already begun analyzing the data from the encounter." "And Commander Hill," Foster concluded, "you've had the most direct contact with their leadership. You'll train our diplomatic corps on Varax culture and how to negotiate from this new position of psychological advantage." Hill accepted with a firm nod. As the meeting adjourned, Carter stayed behind with Foster. "There's one more thing, Admiral," he said quietly. "Lieutenant Murphy and his team? The operators who conducted the rescue. What about them?" "They volunteered to be the core of the new TDF. They want to finish what they started." Foster considered this. "The psychological toll of implementing this doctrine will be heavy. Are they prepared for that?" Carter's expression was grim. "They carried Johnson's body home, Admiral. They're prepared." Over the next several months, the Tactical Deterrent Force grew from Murphy's small team into a specialized branch of the military. They trained in new facilities built inside an asteroid in the belt. The weapons development team created equipment designed specifically for fighting Varax. Rounds that would shatter their carapace to maximize bleeding. Specialized armor that could withstand Varax. Weapons while displaying minimal damage. They studied recordings of the rescue mission, refining their understanding of how fear spread through the Varax collective consciousness. They practiced techniques to appear fearless even when injured. Lieutenant Murphy, now Major Murphy, led training exercises that simulated Varak psychology. His team became experts in causing precise, visible damage to targets. "We don't just shoot to kill," he told his operators. "We shoot to terrify. Every Varax that bleeds becomes a weapon against their own side." On the Phantom, Captain West oversaw the installation of new stealth systems designed to strike without warning. His tactical officer, Lisa Brown, developed attack patterns specifically designed to maximize psychological impact. "Hit the commanders first," she instructed. "Make the leaders bleed where everyone can see them." Dr. Martinez made a breakthrough when she discovered that Varax of higher rank had more potent fear responses. Their fluid contained stronger psychic markers. "Their hierarchy isn't just social," she reported. "It's biological. The higher the rank, the stronger the connection to the hive mind." As Earth prepared for the coming conflict, a new saying spread through the tactical deterrent force: "If it bleeds, we can make it fear. If it fears, we've already won." 1 year after first contact, long-range sensors detected movement. The Varax fleet had begun its advance toward the Sol system. Admiral Foster called her commanders together. "It's time to put the Doctrine to the test. May it keep Earth safe." The human fleet moved out to meet the invasion, carrying with them a new kind of weapon, the knowledge of what makes an enemy afraid. Colonel William Carter stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned flagship Retribution. Through the viewscreen he watched Earth grow smaller as the human fleet moved toward the outer planets. The Varax invasion force had been detected crossing Neptune's orbit. "Status report," he ordered. His second-in-command, Commander Frank Rivera, responded. "All ships in formation, Colonel. The Phantom is in position with TDF strike teams ready. The rest of the fleet is in defensive positions around." Europa, Carter nodded. Intelligence had predicted the Varax would target Jupiter's moon Europa as their first staging area. Its vast subsurface ocean made it valuable for any invasion force. "Dr. Martinez, any updates on Varax movements?" Carter asked. Olivia Martinez looked up from her station where she monitored communications and sensor data. In the years since first contact, she had become the foremost expert on Varax behavior. "Their fleet is moving in standard conquest formation," she said. "Based on data from other invaded systems, they'll send their largest dreadnought to demonstrate force." Carter turned to the communications officer. "Open a channel to Captain West." Samuel West's face appeared on screen. "The captain of the Phantom?" "Looked calm but alert, Colonel Carter." "We're in position and cloaked. The Varax have no idea we're here." "Good. Your strike teams know the primary targets?" West nodded. "Major Murphy is fully briefed. His team will target the psychic nexus chambers on the dreadnought as soon as it's in range." Carter turned to Martinez. "Remind me about these nexus chambers." "They're special areas where high-ranking Varax gather to strengthen their hive connections." She explained, "Think of them as psychic amplifiers. If we can cause terror there, it will spread throughout their fleet much faster." The bridge fell silent as a massive shape appeared on long-range sensors. The Varax dreadnought was 3 times larger than any human vessel. Its hull pulsed with the same bioluminescent glow they had seen on the smaller ships. "That's their flagship," Martinez whispered. "The heart of Dominion, based on intercepted communications." Carter studied the massive ship. "They're showing off. They want us to be afraid." He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Colonel Carter. The enemy believes their size and technology will intimidate us. They believe we will surrender. When faced with their might," he paused, "they are wrong. Today we show them what humans do when threatened. We've prepared for this moment. Execute the Homophobia Doctrine." The human fleet held position near Europa, appearing to defend the moon. The Varax approached in attack formation, their massive dreadnought in the center, aboard the Phantom. Major Alan Murphy led his TDF operators to the launch bay. Each wore specialized armor developed over the past year. Their weapons contained ammunition designed specifically for Varax physiology. "Remember your training," Murphy told his team. "Target their leaders. Make them bleed where others can see. Broadcast everything. His team had grown to 30 elite operators, divided into 5 squads. They boarded stealth insertion craft designed to bypass Varax's defenses. Launch when ready, Captain West ordered from the bridge. The insertion craft slipped away from the Phantom, their advanced stealth technology making them invisible to Varax sensors. They approached the massive dreadnought from different angles. On the Retribution, Carter watched the tactical display. The Varax are hailing us. Put them through, he ordered. The face of High Commander Kresither appeared on screen. The same Varax who had killed Lieutenant Johnson a year earlier. Humans, the commander said, his translator converting the clicks and whistles. Your resistance is noted but futile. Surrender your system now, and your people will be treated fairly as a resource species. Carter kept his expression neutral. We remember you, High Commander. You killed one of our diplomats. You threatened our world. The Varax commander's inner fluids pulsed brightly. One insignificant death. Soon there will be millions if you resist. You misunderstand humans, Carter replied calmly. We don't fear death the way you do. As he spoke, Murphy's teams reached the dreadnought. Using cutting tools designed for Varax ship materials, they breached the hull at predetermined points. Each team entered the massive vessel silently, following paths to the nexus chambers identified by intelligence. The Varax commander continued his threats, unaware of the infiltration. Your ships are outmatched. Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Your only logical choice is surrender. Carter smiled slightly. Logic is not the only thing that drives humans, Commander. Sometimes it's emotion, like vengeance. On his signal, the human fleet launched a coordinated attack. Not on the dreadnought's weapons or engines as the Varax expected, but on its communication arrays and sensor systems. The attack was a distraction, designed to focus Varax's attention outward. Inside the dreadnought, Murphy's team reached the first nexus chamber. Through the translucent doors, they could see 20 high-ranking Varax connected to glowing conduits. Their inner fluids pulsed in synchronized patterns. Breach and clear, Murphy ordered. Body cameras on maximum broadcast. His operators placed shaped charges on the doors. The explosion sent fragments of door material into the chamber. Before the dust settled, they entered, weapons ready. The Varax inside were not warriors but psychic coordinators. They were unprepared for combat. Murphy's team fired with terrible precision. They used specialized ammunition that shattered the Varax carapaces to maximize bleeding without killing. Immediately, one operator activated the chamber's own communication system, hijacking it to broadcast the scene throughout the ship. This is for Earth, Murphy said clearly as his team methodically wounded each Varax leader. This is for Lieutenant Johnson. The effect spread through the dreadnought instantly. As the high-ranking Varax bled and experienced terror, their psychic connections amplified the fear. Warriors throughout the ship felt their leaders' pain. Many collapsed at their posts. On the Retribution's view screen, High Commander Kresither suddenly convulsed. His inner fluids changed color rapidly. What are you doing? He gasped. Carter leaned forward. Teaching you about humans. You made one of us bleed. Now we're returning the lesson. Martinez monitored the Varax fleets. Communications. It's working. Their ships are breaking formation. The cascade effect is spreading through their fleet. Similar scenes played out in other parts of the dreadnought as the remaining TDF teams reached their targets. Each broadcast their actions to different parts of the Varax fleet, the human fleet. Press the advantage. The Retribution led a direct assault on the now disorganized Varax ships. Without their psychic coordination, the aliens fought as individuals, not as a cohesive force. Their flagship is turning away, Rivera reported with disbelief. They're retreating. The massive dreadnought began to move away from Europa, its movements erratic. Other Varax ships followed, many colliding with each other in their haste to escape. Murphy's teams extracted from the dreadnought, their mission complete. They returned to the Phantom as the Varax fleet scattered. I've never seen anything like this, Martinez said, studying the sensor readings. Their entire command structure has collapsed. The fear response has overwhelmed their ability to fight. Carter, open the channel to all human ships. All vessels pursue to Neptune's orbit only, let them run. Let them carry the message back to their empire. As the damaged Varax fleet fled the solar system, Carter turned to Martinez. Will they come back? She studied her data. Not soon. The psychological trauma we've inflicted will take time to overcome. They need to rebuild their confidence, develop countermeasures. And by then we'll be ready for them, Carter said. The Battle of Europa, as it would come to be known, was over in less than 6 hours. The human fleet had suffered minimal losses. The Varax had learned a terrible lesson about humanity. As the retribution turned back toward Earth, Carter looked at the stars. Send a message to Admiral Foster. Tell her the homophobia doctrine works. The Varax now know what it means to fear humans. 5 years had passed since first contact with the Varax. Admiral Susan Hill, promoted after the Battle of Europa, stood before the United Earth Senate. The Grand Chamber was filled with representatives from every nation on the planet. Large view screens showed delegates from the lunar and Martian colonies as well. Senators, honored delegates, Susan began. Today I present the final report on the Varax War and the peace that followed. She activated a holographic display showing the Sol system and beyond. Blue markers indicated human territory, while red showed Varax space. A clear boundary line separated them. The conflict that began with the death of Lieutenant Eric Johnson ended 3 months ago with the signing of the Solvarax Treaty. For the first time in their history, the Varax Imperium has agreed to an unconditional peace. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many had doubted this day would ever come. The Varax had conquered 17 species before encountering humans. No one had ever stopped their expansion. How can we trust them to honor this agreement? Asked one senator. Susan nodded at the question. Because we've done something no other species has accomplished. We've fundamentally altered Varax evolution. She gestured to Dr. Olivia Martinez, who joined her at the podium. Over the years, Martinez had become the leading xenobiologist studying Varax psychology. The homophobia doctrine targeted a vulnerability in Varax biology, Martinez explained. Their collective consciousness experiences fear as a shared sensation. What we didn't anticipate was how deeply this would affect their species. She displayed brain scans of Varax prisoners taken at different times during the war. These scans show something remarkable. The terror we inflicted during the Battle of Europa and subsequent engagements has become embedded in their genetic memory. It's been passed to new generations hatched after the battle. A senator leaned forward. Are you saying they're born afraid of us? Not exactly, Martinez clarified. But they're born with the capacity to remember what happened. They're collective. Consciousness preserves experiences across generations. The Varax Emperor himself confirmed this during peace negotiations. Susan continued the briefing. After the Battle of Europa, the Varax retreated to their territory. We expected them to develop countermeasures in return. Instead, they sent diplomatic envoys requesting talks. The display showed footage of the peace conference. Varax delegates sat across from human representatives led by Colonel William Carter. The aliens' normally bright inner fluids appeared dimmer, more controlled. The Varax Emperor, speaking through translators, explained something unprecedented, Susan said. Their species had never before experienced defeat. More importantly, they had never experienced generational trauma. The images of their kind, bleeding while humans stood resolute despite wounds, had created a new kind of memory in their collective. Martinez added, they have a term for it now in their language. Roughly translated, it means the cold ones who do not share fear. It's how they refer to humans. Susan brought up the terms of the peace treaty. The agreement establishes clear boundaries between our territories. The Varax have withdrawn from 3 systems they previously conquered, creating a buffer zone. They've also agreed to reparations for Lieutenant Johnson's family. One of the Mars delegates spoke up. What prevents them from rebuilding their forces and attacking again once this fear fades? Susan nodded to Colonel Carter, now General Carter, who joined them at the podium. The final phase of the homophobia doctrine was perhaps its most important. Carter explained, mercy. He showed footage of human medics treating wounded Varax after the last battle of the war. Next to this played images of human engineers helping repair a damaged Varax colony vessel that had drifted into human space. We showed them that our capacity for violence is matched by our capacity for compassion, Carter said. This duality confused them at first, now it fascinates them. Susan took over again. The Varax built their empire on a simple principle: the strong dominate the weak. When we defeated them, they expected extinction. When we offered fair peace terms instead, we challenged their entire worldview. She displayed the new Interspecies Defense Council chamber, where human and Varax representatives sat together with delegates from other species. The Varax now study us with a mixture of fear and respect. They've begun to question their conquest-based culture. 3 previously subjugated species have been granted autonomy as a result, a senior senator stood. Admiral Hill in simple terms, what is the lasting impact of this conflict? Susan considered the question carefully. We taught them that if they bleed, they will fear us. But we also taught them that if they stand with us in peace, they need never fear us again. This balance of strength and mercy is something their species had never encountered. General Carter added, we call it the Hill-Carter Doctrine now. Demonstrate overwhelming force when necessary, but show restraint and compassion when possible. In the years that followed, humanity's reputation spread throughout known space. As Earth made contact with other alien civilizations, the story of the Varax War traveled ahead of them. Humans became known as the species that defeated the mighty Varax not through superior technology or numbers, but through understanding the psychology of their enemy. New Varax generations studied human history and culture. They were particularly fascinated by human individuality, the ability to stand alone yet work together. Several Varax scientists even requested permission to live among humans to study this phenomenon. 10 years after first contact, a memorial was dedicated to Lieutenant Eric Johnson at the Interspecies Defense Council headquarters. Both human and Varax representatives attended the ceremony. The Varax Emperor sent a representative who spoke directly to Johnson's family. Your kin's death began as our greatest mistake. It ended as our most important lesson. Major Murphy, who had led the TDF strike teams, now trained both human and Varax joint security forces. The same skills that had once been used to cause terror were now used to build understanding. Dr. Martinez led research into using the Varax collective consciousness for healing rather than warfare. The results helped both species advance their medical knowledge. Susan Hill, now retired from military service, worked as an advisor to the Earth President on interspecies relations. She often reflected on how differently things might have gone. Without the homophobia doctrine, one evening she visited the small museum dedicated to the conflict. Lieutenant Johnson's uniform stood in a place of honor. Beside it was a quote that had become the unofficial motto of human tactical doctrine. If it bleeds, it will fear us for eternity. And if it fears us, it need never bleed again. Susan touched the glass case gently. We remember, Eric, she whispered. And because we remember, the galaxy is safer. Outside the museum window, human and Varax children played together in a park. The Varax younglings' inner fluids glowed not with fear, but with excitement and curiosity. They had been born into a universe where humans were not enemies but allies, fearsome when threatened, but generous in peace. The ultimate lesson of the Varax War had transformed 2 species and changed the course of galactic history. Sometimes understanding your enemy's fear is more powerful than any weapon.